So there is the very false belief that participating in a clinical trial makes a person a guinea pig. I think it's very important for people to know that clinical trials are highly regulated to make sure that they are safe and to make sure that they are ethical. So you are not a guinea pig when you're participating in a clinical trial. My name is Dr. Alexea Gaffney-Adams. I am a board-certified internist and infectious disease doctor. I'm also a stage 3 breast cancer survivor thriver, a breast health advocate, and a clinical trials participant. In my opinion, it is an absolute myth that Black and African American people don't want to participate in clinical trials. I will say that as a clinician being in patient care spaces, I have often heard my colleagues and peers say things like, oh, I just don't even ask certain groups because I know that they will say no. But I'm glad to report that there is a concerted effort to make sure that people of all ethnicities, all racial groups are being considered for clinical trials and being invited to participate. It's been a huge undertaking to get this done, and it's very important that it gets done because we do want to participate in the clinical trials.
Hello, my name is Tomika Bryant. I am from King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. I am a digital content creative. I was diagnosed in 2013 with triple negative stage 2B breast cancer. I think persons of color have different mixed feelings on clinical trials. I think some are interested and I think some are not, and I think a lot of it is just fear. People have a lot of misconceptions, much like being treated like a guinea pig, and then we also have to deal with a lot of the biases that we, experience just going into our doctor offices. And so some people just don't want to deal with it. So when I received the diagnosis that I had cancer, I don't think I said, I have cancer. I said the doctor said I have cancer. So I kind of never really owned it, but I knew that I needed to do something. So in that moment, I decided, you know what? This is never gonna have me. I am going to kick it, regardless of what kick it looks like. For me, it meant that I was going to participate in everything I possibly could to get to NED, no evidence of disease.
Yo soy la doctora Ana Maria Lopez. Yo soy oncóloga. Soy profesora de oncología en el Sidney Kimmel Comprehensive Cancer Center en Thomas Jefferson University en Filadelfia. Es muy común que la persona venga con preguntas, que piense, ¿cómo es que me van a tratar? Si es un experimento, ¿me van a tratar como un animalito que está en el experimento o es como una persona? Y lo que uno tiene que pensar es que los ensayos clínicos como que tienen una historia. Y al principio no había muchas protecciones, pero eso ha cambiado bastante. Solo para pensar si una persona, si un científico, si un médico puede decidir proponer un ensayo clínico, se tiene que pasar muchas regulaciones. Hay muchas protecciones.
I'm Megan O'Neill. I'm originally from a small town in Michigan, Spring Lake, Michigan. I currently reside in Los Angeles. I am a metastatic breast cancer patient. I have been dealing with metastatic disease since 2020. So I come from a family who has never had any issues trusting our doctors, has never had an issue trusting science. I know that that is a privilege and not every person comes from that background. And it's so unfortunate because I am benefiting from clinical trials, and I feel like a lot of people whose families have been traditionally really harmed by clinical trials in the past, they're not benefiting in the same way that I am, which is like a secondary hurt.
My sisters were really initially not excited about me being willing to participate in a clinical trial. They said many of the things that we often hear. You're gonna be a guinea pig. What if they don't treat you? What if they give you placebo? But once I was enrolled and they were there for the visits and they were able to sit in on the consenting process, they became a lot more comfortable over time.
I think there was a lot of confusion from friends and family, especially back home, about why would I choose to be a part of a clinical trial. And I think there's a lot of confusion. There's all these drugs that are available. Why would you want to choose a clinical trial? Why would you just not go with standard of care? We have so much research and we know these drugs are good. And that's totally valid. But in my very first trial, again, I was potentially getting access to a drug that wasn't quite approved yet, but was showing really, really great promise. And I wanted access to that drug. And I think once I was a part of a clinical trial for one trial, I saw how heavily I was monitored. I saw how safe it was. I felt really comfortable. I loved all my interactions with my care team. I loved getting tested more often. I loved having more data about what was going on with my cancer that I may have not gotten if I wasn't a part of a clinical trial. And I just felt good about forwarding research. I am really grateful to be where I am in Los Angeles, to have all of these available resources to me. I wouldn't have had that in Michigan, and it does sort of restrict me, from being able to spend an entire summer home with my family or being able to travel to and fro when I want to.
So I've participated in several clinical trials. I've done one where it was literally about exercise. I've completed one where they were taking bone marrow. I've also done one where they were studying my heart and the effects of chemotherapy. If you have an issue during your clinical trial, you absolutely have a team of professionals that you can reach out to and talk to. In fact, it is encouraged. During my clinical trial, I actually kept a journal of things that just seemed kind of out of the ordinary to me, so that whenever I went into appointments, I can share it with them. And if it was something that I really felt was abnormal, I had several phone numbers in which I could call someone to get the information I needed.
There's a huge misconception that once you're on a trial, you cannot get off. And that is absolutely not true. At any point, you can say, nah, I don't want to do it anymore. That is completely in your right. Nothing will change between the care between you and your doctor. You will just go back to a different standard of care. There's no issue. No one's going to be mad at you or upset with you. It is not a problem. There might be side effects that you are not happy with. So, hey, on this medication, I'm feeling nauseous and I just want to try something else. Totally okay. Or, hey, I actually don't want to come in as often as I am anymore.
Las personas muchas veces tienen la pregunta que si el tratamiento experimental sería nada, sería algo que era solo como una pastilla de azúcar. Y usualmente cuando se hace una investigación clínica para una persona que tiene cáncer, eso no existe porque la comparación es sobre el tratamiento usual, el tratamiento normal y el tratamiento experimental. O sea que siempre hay un tratamiento que uno está tratando de ver si el nuevo tratamiento es mejor o no.
So in a cancer clinical trial or in any therapeutic clinical trial, the gold standard is to do what's called a double-blinded trial, which means you cannot, as a participant or you cannot as a principal investigator, tell who is getting the therapeutic intervention or the study drug and who is getting the standard of care. So sometimes an individual in the trial may be given their standard of care plus a placebo, whereas those in the trial group or the intervention group would be receiving the study drug plus a placebo that mirrors or looks identical to the standard of care or in addition to the standard of care. So that is the only time and place where a placebo would be used in a cancer clinical trial in order to blind the data, to keep those interpreting the data as unbiased as possible.
The clinical trial will cover a lot of things, but there are also things that they will not cover. So I would not go as far to say as a clinical trial is free. There are some perks. For example, parking in LA is very, very expensive, but yet they cover my parking when I'm a part of a clinical trial. And for an average patient going in 2 times a month, that's $30 a month times 12 months out of the year, that's significant. They can cover things potentially like childcare. They can cover potentially things like meals and gas and mileage and that sort of thing. But no, they're not free. I will say they tend to cover, and they do cover anything that's not standard. So if, for example, I am due for a scan every, let's say 6 months, but the trial wants one every 2 months, then the trial would cover the scans in between. If there's a drug that I'm on that's a standard of care drug, I would be in charge of covering that with my insurance. And if there's a drug that the pharmaceutical company is testing, then they would provide that drug. So no, it is absolutely not free. It is a little bit more time consuming than just being an average patient coming in, because you tend to have more appointments with your doctor, which is also awesome, right?
Si usted tiene alguna pregunta sobre un ensayo clínico para el cáncer o ensayo clínico en general, haga la pregunta. Hable con su médico. Usualmente es un grupo de personas que le cuidan. Hable con ellos, con el que tenga más confianza. Los ensayos clínicos, hay algo que es accesible en ese lugar de práctica. Los ensayos clínicos son algo para usted, es algo que usted es elegible para participar. O si no hay en esa clínica, en esa práctica, ¿dónde puede aprender más? Porque hay diferentes tipos de ensayos clínicos, son para diferentes enfermedades o para diferentes preguntas, pero que le pueden guiar dónde puede aprender más. Muy importante hacer la pregunta, muy importante reconocer que usted mismo puede aprender más y puede decidir cómo proceder. O sea que les digo de todo mi corazón, hagan la pregunta.
If I were to reach just one person today, I would say that you are worthy of having the most cutting edge medicine available to you in the cancer space. And that is going to constantly be changing because of where research is. And you deserve to know about clinical trials. You deserve to know if you're eligible for them. You're worthy of finding out where they are and where they're located and getting access to them. So if I could say one thing, at the end of the day, you are worthy of having access to the highest and most cutting edge technology with the best medication to give you the best shot at beating this disease.
Keep going. Don't stop. Don't let anything derail you from your goal of NED. I am 100% certain that by participating in the clinical trials that I did, it saved my life. Clinical trials are not a last resort, and I don't want you to view them as that. Literally, I think they should go hand in hand with what you're already doing, but it is your opportunity to make a difference. And if that's the only reason why you do it, so that a neighbor, your child, your niece, your nephew does not have to hear the words "you have cancer," then do it.